And how was your weekend?
Man, it was pretty good. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm good. Definitely excited about the upcoming FIBA tournament. It's kind of interesting right now watching this Team USA team. I know
Sure.
we've had a lot to say about it, and people think we need to get off of the riding them so hard. But I just want to ask you because I was thinking about this right before we got on,
Okay.
and maybe this will kind of crystallize how I feel at least about this team. But what how many NBA teams do you think that this Team USA FIBA team could beat?
Well, man, that's a really good question. I'm
I mean,
trying to figure it out
do
here.
you think that they could get to the Eastern Conference Finals? Because I don't.
Hey, how's your mic? Do you hear an echo?
I don't hear an echo, no,
Man, I have a
personally.
horrible echo here.
But
What about that?
I don't hear an echo.
Yeah,
But
that's better. All
all right.
right.
But
My
like,
bad.
do you think
But
that this team with Ant, Brennan
sure.
Ingram, Halliburton, like those are kind of the best players? I guess there's people could argue that there's a few other solid players, but do you think that they could beat? Uh, I don't know, a team that made it to the second round of the playoffs.
Here's the thing: is I don't know how this team can play together. I'm all about team chemistry. I'm always been about team chemistry. Can the team put together a squad that really is cohesive? Sam Presti talks about it a lot, and that's one of the reasons I love talking about it. Is because if you think about Sam Presti, you think about what he's saying with drafting a team and having a team versus having a bunch of guys that want to be with each other. So going back to that question is that can this team that we're seeing with FIBA really pull it together? I think we were a little bit harsh on one of the shorts that we had done about talking about this week USA team. Uh, but I'll be honest with you, is that there's not a name that stands out to me. And that's why it was important that we were looking at it and we're saying, why don't we have a younger team here? Because this is a perfect year to just focus on the young team. When we did with KD and Russ and all those other guys, so why not do it again? And that's where I keep going back to, and that's why I want to say, like, this is for me a big moment for this team if we can pull things together,
What up,
right?
Jared?
And we can continue. But more so, this watching this USA team and seeing what's going to go on here. There's a lot of really good teams here, man. This is not just like this is old school hoops where we
What
know
up,
the
Logan?
USA is going to be in the top three. Like this is a very deep FIBA championship, and so when we say that this is a weak USA team, it's just weak comparatively to what we've seen in the past. Does that make sense, man?
It does, but you're like, here's my problem. Okay, if this team wasn't named USA, would we be would we be willing to be real?
Well, again,
This is
I
like that's what I
think
mean. Like if this team was called the Cobras or something, it'd be like, yeah, man, this team looks like a bunch of ball hogs.
well, they
But they're
have a
called
bunch
Team
of good
USA,
pieces though
and
that
we're
they can
like,
play together.
um, bro, I think I just lost my internet, but we'll see. Maybe it's just my room that went out. I'm back.
Yeah, there we go.
Haha, lucky. Um, but
Man, I would be scared of that, Smith's an 85-inch TV in my face, bro. What the hell, man? I can't handle that.
so I mean, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, if this are we afraid of being like traitors to our country? Is that why we won't be real about this Team USA?
I listen. This okay. The Oklahoma City Thunder has taught me a couple of things about basketball, man. Sam Presti and my experience with
Let's
understanding like where basketball is going. It's no longer the USA versus the world. It's a global sport. And like to me, like I keep going back to like, is it wrong of us to sit there and say we're going to cheer for this team, and this team? No, it's not because that's what it's supposed to. Because basketball is supposed to have your favorite players playing for different, teams nationally. And
since when?
what's that?
Since when?
Well, I mean, think about it. I mean, I go back to like 2004 when we started seeing a lot of NBA players playing for different squads, 2006 maybe, and it's to start like being like, oh my gosh, this is the potential, you know. And now that we see that potential, it's to me, it's sexy, man. Like I don't want to stop it. I don't want this team to be like looking back and saying, "Oh, we should have done this or we should have done this." I just don't think that this team is equivalent to the Australian team or, even I mean Germany. I mean, like, you could bring you could bring out a few of these teams that have deceptively good teams. And when I say teams, that's exactly what I mean. Right now, from what I've seen with the USA team, is that we have a bunch of players that play the game of hoops very well, learning to be a team. These other squads have been playing together for a lot longer and they know each other. They work out with each other every year. You know what I'm saying? Like this, it's a different atmosphere than the USA team. And that's why I got to take a step back and I'm wondering what the fuck they were thinking when they put this team together. They should have gone young. They should have made it young because they want this team to be playing together in 7, 8, 9, 10 years. Like that's how we're going to be able to win a gold medal in the Olympics in 12 years or 13 years or whatever, is by playing these young guys now.
Bro, and you said you were trying to be nicer this time.
But I'm just being honest with it, man.
That's
Like,
the problem.
listen,
Because
if Steve Kerr or Popovich or any of these other coaches, they sat here and they said, look at this team comparatively the other years, this is what I feel about it. And they would be very similar to what I'm saying. It
you
wouldn't
know
be like a shocker.
when college teams, when they started, even like the older programs, more traditional programs, started really going for one and done players,
Sure.
it changed the power dynamics and it put it in spots where teams that had more chemistry, who had 4-year starters, things like that, had an advantage over those teams that were like full of freshmen. Um,
Sure.
Kentucky went out and proved some things, but most other squads had a lot of tough times in tournament time, and then you would see these massive Cinderellas go all the way to the Final Four, and it would be because they had depth with players who understood how to play the game plan. And I feel like we're going to see something similar when this happens with Team USA versus the world. The world, like these other teams in the world, have a lot of continuity,
Sure.
and we don't. And that usually wins unless you have such an outstanding amount more talent than
Yeah.
the other guys, and it doesn't appear that we do. So it really seems like we're set up as Team USA to take a real serious punch in the
What's up,
face.
James? What's up, Jared?
Look, we don't take FIBA as seriously as we should anyway, but like you said, this was an opportunity for us to gear up for the next decade of Team USA, and it seems to me like it's a step backwards. But people will ridicule us until there's a few losses, and then once they do, they'll be like,
Man,
"Well, I guess we should have seen it coming."
I felt the same way about the year before the Redeem team,
Yeah, yeah.
when they sent, it was just a shitty team they sent. I was like, why did we do this? Like, are we trying to give away the gold medal? Like,
They
but we had all these rules that prohibited for us from sending guys that had already gone. And it was just like, this is ridiculous. Like,
it was this mentality that we were so much more talented than everybody else that we
that
didn't
was
have
the
to.
change. That was the moment that we all started seeing.
And
And that's to me, my point. It goes
it
back to,
changed for a while, but we're back to it. And that's what happens with like teams that develop dynasties. They get
sure.
complacent. And that's what we're seeing with that team, dude. It's a
Well, and
team
I
of
look at,
complacency.
I wish because the gold, when we go to the Olympics, right? In 2024, I think it is. Yeah. I'm concerned that the Olympic Committee doesn't understand what it takes to put a team together. I'm truly concerned because if we're looking at the team that we're looking at right now, I would say maybe 3 of these players will be on that team next year. Because if Chet comes out and has a crazy good year, he's going. J-Dub has a crazy year, he's going, right? And we can keep going down that list. And all of a sudden, all these other guys that keep getting pushed out and pushed back further and further and further, and
Right.
then it's like, why do we waste these spaces the year before? That's what I get frustrated about. I get frustrated because Cade Cunningham should have been on this team. Jalen Green should have been on this team. Like, we should have gone straight young motherfucking players and we should have just done it because we're not going to place in the top 3. And if we place in the top 3, that will surprise me this year with FIBA. And if we're not placing the top 3, what the fuck are we doing? Like, again, USA basketball is in my opinion the pinnacle of basketball at this moment. in 5 years, 6 years, we don't know where it's going. It could be France, it could be the pinnacle. It could be all the top, say 5 of the top 10 players in the league could be French, you know, and you could just start going down the list. You're like, we don't know where the league is in going 5 years and which country is going to be the pinnacle of hoops. And that's fine with me because that's the first time in history it's ever been like that.
So I asked you at the beginning, like, what teams would you take Team USA to beat? Let me ask you one that shouldn't be too hard for you to think about.
Sure.
Would they beat the Thunder?
Um, you mean if they haven't played very many games before? Yeah, no, they would not beat the Thunder. If the Thunder were playing against them and they had at least a season under their belt playing against this team, Thunder would crush the shit out of them. Because we play team hoops. It's not ISO, it's not individual. And I feel like that is what's happening right now in the USA hoops is they got a bunch of guys that play ISO basketball like Brandon Ingram and you know what I'm saying? And it's cool. It's fun because you have somebody like Tyrese throwing the ball around to them. And you can do that. But again, that's not where the league is going to be in 5-10 years. Like the value is not going to be in who's the best ISO player in the on your team. It's just not. So to me, it's cool to see, I guess, in this aspect of the old school FIBA drafting wise. But if they don't get young people or GMs that give a shit about making sure that this, new systems and idea of what's happening with the league is represented, then we're gonna have teams that are gonna get crushed every fucking year. Olympics, FIBA, it doesn't matter, man. Like we'll get crushed because if we're not willing to change our ways as USA representatives of basketball, then it's just over. Like it is.
So let's talk about a team that seems to be favorite, at least in some
Yeah,
experts'
let's do it,
opinion.
man.
Team Canada.
Dude, I
Um,
love Team Canada, man. I love Team Canada. I love Team Australia. I mean, we could go down the list of teams I love to watch, but those two lead the way, bro.
so let's talk about Team Canada. Let's talk about Shai.
Yeah.
Um, do you think they have what it takes? I mean, he seems to be the best player in the tournament.
I'll be honest with you. 100% honest with you. If nobody gets injured on that Canadian team, they have the best guard combos, in this. If they go out there just shooting and going, nobody's going to stay with them. They're going to put up 100 and crazy points. And that's cool because they need to make a scene right now. They know it more than anybody that they need to go into the Olympics next year as one of the top teams. Because if they don't, then they're in trouble. And that again, a team like Canada, they're putting their best players forward, right? A team we can go. It's just so frustrating, man. Like we're gonna watch this team and we're gonna say Canada's gonna look amazing, Australia's gonna look amazing, and it's gonna look like okay if we don't bring our A game to the Olympics, then we're not gonna walk away with another gold medal. And
Yeah.
I'm like at this point, like I want to see these guys do well, but I also want a lesson to be learned here so that we're not walking around being like, oh yeah, we can do this.
Yeah, if you win when you don't put your best foot forward, then you're just going to keep throwing up bullshit. Um,
Exactly, man.
so Jared wants to know about Shai's game, how it would translate to the 90s and maybe the early 2000s. Here's my question about Shai. Like, this goes with FIBA and the upcoming season. Like, the way I see it, he is the front runner for MVP. If this team outperforms expectations, which
Sure.
they've been set low enough where that's reasonable to do. If expectations were 50 wins, that might be harder to do. But if they
Hmm.
outperform expectations, he puts up 30 plus. Is he the MVP? Is being the best player in the world for FIBA? Is that with Luka in the tournament? Is that a good sign of that? And if you go back to 1995, would that make him one of the top 5 players in the world?
I think you look at Shai's game because of the dynamic situation that he's in and the offensive game that he brings, where he can shoot threes at an effective level, or he can, only hit 1 3 a game and yet score 30 points a game. Like the way he's able to do that and still understand where he needs to be on the floor for passing, it's like that. His game would translate into almost any part of history. of the game. Like, there's very few players that you can say that about. But Shai, in my opinion, because it's like, do you want somebody to attack the hole without taking threes? Cool. Well, who would you rather in the league right now than somebody like Shai that has incredibly high percentage getting into the lane, either passing the ball or shooting the ball at a very effective rate? So you have somebody like that it doesn't matter what time in history, 80s, 90s, 2000s, like somebody like that will dominate the game. Like you say the same thing about LeBron. Say the same thing about these players that are so phenomenally amazing. You insert them here and they do amazing, right? You say the same thing about Jordan. Say the same thing about. I mean, I think Charles Barkley is another player that would have phenomenally fit in almost anywhere. And you say these players and you look at these guys and you're like, man, it doesn't matter where they're at in the history of the game. The fact is, these guys have an opportunity to play at any time in the history of the game because it's elite. Shaq, another guy. I know he can't shoot, right? But nobody can stop Shaq. What are you going to do? Play a zone against Shaq? That doesn't matter. You can have 3 7-footers out there, and Shaq's going to still dunk over it.
You're
What's
gonna
up,
shoot.
Sammy?
What's up, Sammy? You're gonna
Hell
shoot
yeah.
threes. That's what you're gonna do. Now, the whole modern analytical style of basketball fires everybody up. I think that's how you beat Shaq, right? You beat a giant with like Steph Curry.
Sure. But the thing is that even with a giant like Yao Ming against Shaq, like Shaq still in his own little way, like dominate. And but it's the generational, like Jared just said, it's the generational talent, man. Like talent wreaks talent. So it doesn't matter where you put Shai in the history of the game, because he has shown he doesn't rely on his 3-point game to make him a good player. You can insert him 80s, 90s, 70s because he can do that. Like that's the beautiful thing about somebody like that. Like, do I think that Steph Curry could have been successful in any part, anytime during the league? No. You know why? Because if he played in the 90s, Steph Curry would have been injured all the fucking time. All the time. I mean, think about how they got under players' feet, sprained ankles. I mean, all the time. Hard fouls. Like, it would have taken one hard foul for somebody to knock Steph out. So, again, it's all about the time period that you play in, And fortunately, Oklahoma City Thunder fans, I think we get an opportunity to watch Shai no matter what, if he played in insert time period.
Do you think he would be the same type of player, or do you think he'd rely on his jump shot more if they were packing the paint a lot?
Well, I mean, obviously, you think about the '90s and you think about even the early 2000s and the domination of the big men during that time, right? You would see his game dwarf a little bit, but the thing about what Shai does is how many times does he go all the way down the lane? He does when he gets past the big guy, but he goes to the edge of it and puts his foot in the lane and then passes the ball. You see what I'm saying? Like, back in the 90s with all the help defenses and all that other stuff, right? Like, yes, Shake would have had to slightly changed his game, but it wouldn't have been dramatically. And I think that he would have been one of those guys that would have very easily been able to do so.
Cool. So, Sammy, how you been, man? It's good to see you again.
Yeah. By the way, guys, if you haven't seen it, Andrew Gay's jersey signed by a bunch of the players, and that was given to me by Sammy. Totally amazing. I loved looking at it every single day, and it makes me smile even when I see it in the rear view here of the camera. So pretty stoked that I get to have that and get to look at it as often as I do. And by the way, I am going to be taking it to a game this year. So I'm going to be trying to get to the Washington Wizards versus the Oklahoma City Thunder game this year, and I'm going to wear that, and hopefully I can try to finagle some courtside seats.
You think you're gonna be able to fit into it, bro?
Dude, it's Andrew Gay's, first of all, and I think it's a triple XL. So if I can't fit it into it, man, then I've got problems. I'm a straight up double XL, bro.
All right, I didn't realize it was that big, dude.
Yeah, it's a big jersey.
All right. Watch out for Dave at the Wizards game.
Yeah, and it's slightly see through. So if you see my nipples, I do apologize.
Dude, that's the old MCI Center. Now they call it the Verizon Center, right?
I know. I forget what it's called.
But when it was the
it's about
MCI
10
Center, I snuck into an Eric Clapton concert there.
Yeah, back in the day, bro.
Back in the day, anyway. moving forward. Good times. So Shea for MVP.
Yeah. Why, dude? What? Like, listen. Anybody that says that we're crazy, again, we're homers. Okay, so we're allowed to be crazy. Like we're super fans of the Oklahoma City Thunder. We're not super fans of the Lakers. So Shea for MVP is what we would like to see because that's what we see his talent being. Like if you're a top 5 MVP candidate, and if you take all the guards votes and you combine them into one, they only beat Shea by a couple points. I think Shea had 46 points, and all the guards on the list had 49 points. Like so. Knowing that, I feel like Shea has a huge step up. I feel like Shea has an opportunity because this last year Shea surprised everybody with a top 5 MVP finish, but it wasn't a surprise for us. It was a surprise for everybody else that didn't watch the Oklahoma City Thunder because we were only on TV 3 times, 4 times. So it's not a surprise that some of these other people didn't know what was happening in Oklahoma City, but now they do. Now they're following. And because of that, I think Shea could get a lot more MVP votes. And if you're talking about a popularity contest, what's better than somebody that went from 5 to number 1 and he's under 25 years old getting an MVP? It's beautiful, beautiful, bro. It's the new style of hoops coming.
What up, Riddles?
Riddles.
Dude, I dig it. I think with Shea out there, last summer we were talking about it and we were like, he's establishing his campaign for first team All NBA. He did that with averaging 30 after the All-Star break. He came out and did that for a whole season and, forced himself to be reckoned with. And then here we are with it. And I don't feel like there are enough people who are anticipating another step up in a player who is still about to enter his prime, not
Sure.
quite in his prime.
You're right.
That's what's surprising to me right now. I think we have to start the rumor. We have to start the movement. Like Shea for MVP, it starts FIBA and it runs straight through, man. It runs straight the fuck through.
Yeah, and all right, Hugh, how many national televised games will be this year? We won't know that until close to the season, but I'm guessing at least 10. We're going to have a bunch because this year people think we're going to be for real. I'm excited about that. Jared, all right, I was a Knicks fan growing up, but my second favorite team, in my opinion, it was okay to have a West Coast team and a favorite East Coast team. So I was definitely a Sean Kemp and the Glove fan, man. I love what those two could do in Seattle. So I was a Sonics fan early on. And I actually bought Sean Kemp's shoes. I was a big Kemp fan. So,
Rainmaker.
yeah, I like we've loved watching this team mature to what it is now. But best player in FIBA, George, is Shea the best player in FIBA this year? I would say this is that
Luka's there, so it's
Luka's
pretty
there.
amazing that people are even considering that as a possibility.
But
Yes,
again, I'm a homer, so yes, Shea is the best player.
for sure.
Yeah. Oh,
Where I
nice,
think Josh
Jared. You're
will
a
be in
Lakers
5 years.
Hell yeah, Jared. I'm glad you gave that up.
Where will Josh be in 5 years? This is so hard to predict because a lot of it is attached to where you think the team will be.
And what are the stats looking like in 5 years? Like, is it normal to have a point guard that averages nearly a triple double in a season? Like what's going to happen? We don't know what's happening to the guard situation, but I do think that the way that Josh's body is, and the way that he can take abuse in the NBA like he does, I think that he's somebody that we'll see for a very long time. So what do I think his stats and stuff? I think he's going to be an all-star level in 5 years. I think you're going to see him really start coming out of his shell in the next couple of years when he's able to put up 20 plus points a game, do something crazy like 11 rebounds, 12 rebounds, and maybe even 9.5, 10, 12 assists a game. So I do think that this is going to be some of Josh's stats over the next few years. He's just a phenomenal player.
Point forward, exactly, George.
Exactly, man. You can't have
Appreciate you
too many of
joining
those
us.
guys.
What up, Chris?
Chris, what's up, man?
So let's see, man. Monday. How's everybody's Monday going? Definitely appreciate you guys joining us. Seems like it's a good time for some people. Sammy, I'm glad you joined us. What time is it for you, Sammy? Because I know it's pretty early, late. I don't
Be
know.
like 5, 6 o'clock or something like that.
Okay. And
I don't know.
Chris,
I'm gonna act
uh,
like I'm smart.
2:10. Damn,
Damn. Well, we appreciate you staying up, man.
for sure, man. Can't believe it's that late, man. I try to go to bed at I try to go to sleep before 10. So there.
Yes, weed and workout, dude. That's like two of my favorite things. I go on about, I don't know, a 3 mile walk in the morning every morning. So I like to bring my vape with me, and stumble into the house at 6:30 in the morning. Right, the best.
Exactly, dude. For sure. I just got some fresh bud and crumble. So
Oh, nice, nice,
that's why
dude.
my eyes are a little.
No, you're good, dude. I know what crumbles up. So, um, man, all right. So Riddle says I'll give you 5 on. Um,
Team USA and Team Australia to get gold and silver in the World Cup.
I'm gonna say
You
this.
pick the order.
I'm gonna say I would put $5 down for a championship of Canada and Australia. Canada and Australia.
What up, Niner?
And I think in the third place game, you'll have the U.S. and let's just say Luca. Because what else can you say? Just Luca.
Just Luca.
Just Luca. It'll be 5 versus Luca.
George, you think about bringing Shai off the bench, slide Jade up to the 2, and start J Will. There are so many like wrinkles. But
Dort
then I
off the
keep
bench.
thinking like Sam Presti was all like he's always kind of been that Spurs kind of like GM that has like a consistent starting lineup. I do like the idea of getting Jay Will in the starting lineup. I think him next to Chet is something that's just hard to not love. But I don't know. I mean, this is something that just goes after like over and over and over again. Like, is Dort a
Blake.
starter?
Yeah.
What up, Blake?
Man. Tip to tip, bro. Tip to tip. I want to see Chet and Jay Will out there, bro. Just want to see what they can do. All right. But I mean, if we're going straight back door, I want to make sure that I want to see J Dub out there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Give me one margarita. You know what I'm saying?
I think you're right, George. I'm thinking about it. I
I think
mean,
Poku is playing. I don't know. He's just getting back from injuries. So who knows?
man, I really like that idea of getting Jay Will in that starting lineup. I think what he does on the defensive end will play right into what Chet does. Um, but man, bringing Dort off the bench, making his type of money, I think if that happens,
You got to trade him before you bring him off the bench. I'm sorry, you just got to. You can't bring Dort off the bench because then it devalues his value. And if you bring him off the bench, then you've got a $87 million poker chip. You know, like you can't cash that in. You know, you need to be able to stay fluent. And I think that's the thing about Dort is that if you're going to say, I'm sorry, J Dub and J Will have outplayed Dort, well, then it's like, who can or what can we get for Dort? Can we get a blank first round pick for him? Can we get blank player for him? Do we have to, again, this is going to happen to Dort. He can't be on this team for the next 15 years. I'm just sorry. He's not going to be 40 years old on this team. So he needs to figure out, and we need to figure out at what point do we push the exit button for Dort. Don't bring him off the bench.
I don't like it though. I don't like talking about it. Like I think Dort could be a key piece in a championship level team, and then he could be a hell of a steal if we were able to get that level of production from him.
Man. All right. So my question is this is that, you know, people are asking, what about this player? What about this player? I will say this is that I don't want the Oklahoma City Thunder to trade anybody until halfway through the season. I just don't. We need to figure out which players are going to have a staple in this opportunity of playing at this moment. Think about this. If we go out and we trade Trey Man and Trey Man goes off, right? And we're like, why didn't we just keep Trey Man for 3 months to see what he could do? We'd be frustrated, you know? Like, that's what we need to do. We need to sit on these players for 3 months, make a decision on these players once the season's going, which is what? October, November, December. So a little bit into January, you know exactly where these guys are at, which players are going to play the rest of the season. You know, trade the rest and move on. I'm sorry. It's got to happen. We've got too many guys that are really good, ready to play. Mistrich is one of those players. You know, I'm convinced that some of these guys that are on this team right now have an opportunity to be like crazy amazing on this team. Like to the point where people are like, how the fuck did they get that guy? How do they, what's going on here? Like, seriously, if you have a player that's, in my opinion, the Ginobili type player, Mistrich can be that player. You know, like what does that mean? That means that we have a couple players that won't be on this team because he's going to take up their playing time.
What if you had like Mičić, Dort, Poku, Cason Wallace, I don't know, Wiggins or Kenny Hustle, I guess. Kenny Hustle, you got to get him in there. Like, what if that's your second unit, man? That's such a great
I know,
effort.
and that's what I'm saying is like you can't like throw Oladipo in there if he's playing for us. He puts points on the board. You know, like the thing about it is that this team isn't set. We don't know which way they're going. And because of that, I just want them to be patient. Like, what can we wait on? You're like, is there going to be an opportunity for us to be in a trade because a superstar wants out and the team that wants the superstar doesn't want anybody else coming back? They just want draft picks. Like, that's perfect. You know, like those are the situations that we want to get into. And, you know, I don't know, man. That's why I just think that it's best for this team to see what they can do. Like, can this team go 20-4 in the first 25 games? You know, can they pull something crazy out of their ass like that? Or 20-5? You know, can the Thunder do that? If they can, why change anything? You know, like everything's in sync right now. Everything feels good. Everybody feels good. Like nothing should be changed then. You keep the starting lineup the way it is. You know, like superstition like a motherfucker, dude. Like back when I was in high school, and this is not even joking, guys, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, but back in high school, I would have a big game, right? And if I had a big game, I wouldn't wash my jersey from the big game. And I sweat a ton. Like I don't sweat just a little bit. So we would be at nationals, right? And we played against a lot of shitty teams at nationals. And so I'd have big game after big game after big game. I'd play like 6 games before I washed my jersey. You know, like just disgusting. So superstition is for real in sports, man. Like you have a team that's kicking ass every single time that you know, Aaron Wiggins comes off the bench and they're like, oh my gosh, here comes Aaron. Oh, we're going to score 6 straight points. Like he did, man. Every single time he came off the bench at the end of the year, you know, like Wiggins, boom, 6 points. You know, you create that spark as a team. Like, you know what you're getting and they go in the game, they create that, bro, this team is going to do something special. And I think that the more that people are, you know, staying in here and coming in and tuning in with us, I think more people start recognizing like this team isn't a normal team because first of all, we're ready to compete and we're all under like our core is under 25 years old, really. And if you think about that, our core is under 25 and we're ready to compete. How many teams can ever say that? Like that's what's crazy to me. Like that's what we should all be focusing on. That's what we should all be talking about. Are all of our Thunder podcasts out there that they represent the Oklahoma City Thunder? They should be talking about that. They should be talking about the way we're going to win this year. It's not putting expectations on the Oklahoma City Thunder saying we expect them to win 50 plus games. That's not expectations. That's just growth. That's all that is. That's us saying we believe the Oklahoma City Thunder will win this many games next year. And to me, that's we're putting our money where our mouth is. Like, if we were going to win 53 plus games, that means that Shai had a crazy amazing season. That means he's going to be top 3 MVP. So what we're saying about him being the best guard in the league shouldn't be crazy because that means it's top 3 of MVP voting in the league that has consistently voted MVPs for big men over the last 5 years. I mean, that should be something we should all hang our head on, because that's something that's saying 2 years in a row, Shai's been voted on as the best guard in the league. And what else matters?
Having a weird name, I think
Yeah.
that's a good thing. They keep going with weird name people, so go with
Dude.
that.
Or
Dude, you
just,
got me pumped up, bro.
we just got, like, when God came to Sam Presti and said, in this draft, Jalen Williams would be the star. And then he left. Sam Presti goes, but God, what Jalen Williams? God, what Jalen Williams? God didn't answer, so Sam Presti drafted both.
And we got 2 stars, baby.
We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Love you guys.